First of all, I'd like to thank Dita so much for the introduction, for historical context, but also for the numbers, because I like, as she mentioned, in about 26% of women has private banking, premium banking. And I also found in the numbers that we have about only 28% women in the management in leadership, which is less, except to compare with Europe, which is about 35. But I like to start with general future question, and it's a basic question. How do female leaders shape the future of investments? And maybe we can start from here. So the stage is yours, or the words is yours. Tatiana, we can start from you. You have a microphone there? Yeah, you got a microphone there. Okay, so the question was how do female leaders shape the future of investments?
Right. I think that's sort of pretty much in any other category of life, right? The women are a natural part of all the world economy, and I think they should be part of investment as well. They are kind of the other half of the whole, so and they have a different perspective. But I'm not a big fan of looking at a men and women perspective. I think it's more about the professional and life experience that is important, that the women can also bring to the table.
Maybe Helena can continue, and we can continue this because I like to touch it more. But
yeah, so hello everybody again. Thank you for inviting me here. Just to answer the question regarding the main position in investment, I agree definitely with the status or statement that it's really dependent on the life experience, but mainly also about the income level of the women and also their financial independence. Because what is, I think, something that keep us like below the curve compared to men is that many of us, or generally speaking, many of the women are still not really like strongly, or they don't have enough financial sources and reserves to be active on the financial markets. And also, this is also very important, is that still in our life are these women who is caring about the family. So about also the time constraints, it's very important because to be active investor, not the passive one. You need to have a time for following the market. If you are not like expert on financial or the part of the financial market, you need to have a time for that. So in this case, I think it's also a question of the, be brave enough, but also the question of the financial status of the women in Czech Republic or China in Sea region. And also about the time, because it's a time demanding. Of course, I know that lots of women, especially in banking sector or our clients, are, even the women, are very active, but they are more or less inclined to use the passive investment strategies, not the active ones. In this case, I'm a mainly exception.
Tereza, how do you see?
I have a very similar view on that. I mean, women bring different values to the investments. We care about different stuff. We care about it, ESG more, community more, stability more. We are not driven by the sole profit numbers, which is this double-sworded weapon, because it's also the same reason why there's not so many female investors in a place in the first place. But I would also emphasize not only how we and female leaders are shaping the future of investments, but how trends are looking in this perspective. Because the younger the generation is, the less it's proving that the less they look at the investment analysis and investment websites, the more they follow leaders, aka influencers. So the more and social media. So the more important it is to be seen and to be out there. Sadly, I mean, it's happening whether you like it or not. Many of them are not the financial experts. but the more we need to be there and the more influence we have and will have with the younger generations.
Thank you, Kamilla.
Yeah, so how I think about it is that I think, let's say diversity in general, I think is super important because like it gives different perspectives, different opinions, and I believe that hopefully more discussions and that's a better decision. It's independent from whether we talk about gender diversity or any other topics. And in terms of gender diversity, what I see in numbers, and I prepared some numbers for today because I say it's super great to talk days of statistics about the studies as well. There were two important messages for me. One is that women are more likely to invest in women-led startups in VC. So one thing I would assume will happen on the long term, the diversity is increasing in the venture capital market, for example, that hopefully it will further accelerate diversity among founders on startup level. And the other part that I wanted to mention is that women are, especially just the impact, which means that like is by diversity, gender diversity in VC will increase. That hopefully at more eco-relevant topics will be the fine battle like climate or any other. So that's the two, let's say, key insights I just want to share.
And Emilia.
It's hard to go the last because a lot has been said, but I would take it from yet another angle, and that's the fact that women decide about 70 to 80% of consumer spending, and also about the purchases of healthcare services for the entire family, not just for themselves. And I think therefore, if you are a service provider or a product producer that serves, or your main customer is basically majority women, there should be a female representation in the decision making of such companies. So I think this is definitely one angle where we as investors look at, that if we invest in companies that have diversity in leadership, we know they will serve better their customers. And I think what's important is that there are female entrepreneurs who are addressing the needs of customers that have not been addressed. I'll give you an example of female health. There are a lot of things that women have not been included in clinical research studies until 1993. So a lot of the stuff in health medical field has been tested on men, not on women. And now there's a huge wave in Western Europe, in the US, where women are coming up with solutions that are more tailored to women's needs, that are addressing the gaps that have been there around, like menopause, like other areas of also female health. And I think if there are female represented on the investor side, they're more likely, as Kamilla said, to invest twice as more likely to invest in female-funded businesses. And I think, therefore, there will be more products and services for the health of the population, which is not really addressed properly now. So I think this is not just the societal benefits, there is a pure economic aspect to why there should be a representation of women on investment side.
Thank you very much, ladies. But many of your ideas were from like retail perspective. But what I'd like to ask to make this, because our panel has how female leaders shape the future in investment. And I'd like to ask Helena maybe, because you are economist, so I'd like to ask you about hard data from macro perspective. Are there any statistics how the women leadership can increase the productivity of companies and maybe also the productivity of country?
Yeah, thank you for this, based driven or data driven question, because there are some. Of course, it's not like pure macroeconomics. This is more or less the microeconomics. The research has been done by Harvard University together with Peterson Institute, or you can look at the OECD forecast or OECD research. There is also many of them regarding many like business universities. And also, as I remember correctly, the National Bureau of Economic Research, which is a very conservative institution, I would say, is also did recently some research. And the overall result, and please be aware that all the estimation or the confrontational data was driven on on the some sample, like sample of companies. So it's not covering like the entire economy. So this is not macro data. This is the micro data from companies. And all these figures said that is there is like a significant increase, like from like the Harvard University did the research from 0 to 30% of presence of the female leadership in a company. The increase in profit is 15%. So this is like big jump from 0 to 30. Be aware of that. And this is like more or less half of that. It's reflected in the profit. And the question is more or less why there is this situation. As most already here mentioned, the key thing is that the ladies or the females, given all are ready to give the business another they see another opportunities. They see the different ways how to cope with the problem. So like the problem solution is different. Communication is more or less in many cases better. They are also able to promote the communication through the campaign. So there are many let's say female specific leadership methods or the kind of leadership that it's promoted by females, and they may have a positive impact on the profit and also financial results of the companies. And I like your example of health impact, because this is exactly the area when the female leadership may have also have a positive impact on innovation and the new business, more or less the startups or development.
Maybe I switched back to Emilia, because I'm not sure if everyone knows that ESPIRA Investments is a fund which invests in small, medium-sized companies, which prefers to support business led by women. So, Emilia, my question to you is, are those companies somehow, let's say, special? Or maybe Helena also now told you that the profit is increased, so I like to see your perspective on it, like really investment perspective.
Yeah, so I'll explain. It's not women oriented only. What we like is diversity, and we all know that different viewpoints and perspectives lead to better decision making. So that's why we like the companies that have diverse leadership. And as we said, diversity can be gender, age, backgrounds, and other aspects. So what we do, we identify companies that are successful in SME, small, medium-sized enterprises. Ideally, they would have diverse leadership teams, and we will build on what already exists in the company. So one angle of our strategy is going and searching successful female founders or female entrepreneurs. The reason we do that, and it's just one part of our strategy, is that we know that these women quite often lack first-hand information about what it means to have an investor, how the investor can help develop the business. It's probably similar, like we saw the numbers from banking. You would see the similar, it's lack of education, lack of understanding. So trying to go towards them, explain how their business can benefit from cooperation with investors. And it's part of the education, is part of what the process is with these female entrepreneurs. And at the end of the day, they might decide not to invest with us or not to cooperate with us, or yes, but they will still take away some knowledge. And that's kind of our mission, what we're doing. We met over 800 entrepreneurs in the past 6-7 years. And I think many of them will not be our investors, but they refer other female entrepreneurs based on the experience they've had. So I think we find a unique deal sourcing channel where we don't go into competitive situations. We buy companies at reasonable valuations, and we help these female-run businesses to thrive. So that's the thesis behind it.
But from your perspective, I still you for a while. Do behave these companies like which are more diverse, which are driven by women, do behave a bit different than those companies which are driven simply by men?
Our portfolio is mixed. Like we have companies with male CEOs. It's not like we have to have a female CEO. It's mixed. So the teams are usually mixed. I think it's more inclusive culture in terms of listening to different viewpoints, more, as you said, innovative
innovation and creativity thrives in diverse environments. So I would say probably yes, but we haven't really measured by any metrics how this is influenced. It's just the generally knowledge, I would say.
Thank you very much. And Kamilla, what's your experience? Because impact ventures, if I'm right, invest to the companies which have any society impact. Is that? So what's your perspective on, let's say, companies driven by women?
Yeah, so we at Tilia invest in impact founders, let's say, and impact startups. And I think that, as I mentioned before, that women are really enthusiastic for the impact. So what I see is that when you go, for example, for an impact investment event, you are more likely to meet more women than at a standard VC event, for sure. And I just try to compare some of the numbers, and just I don't have a full statistics on the impact VC market in terms of diversity in Europe, but I can just share the example of Tilia. That's for example in our portfolio, 44% of our companies are either led or followed by women, and I know this about significantly about the average. So I think that's one thing that this field is attracting women more. And I really could kind of align with Tatiana what you said, because the reason why we invested is that mainly they were just great. These founders were great, and we didn't have any kind of target set that you need to invest female-led founders, but they just could compete great, and they were super enthusiastic. They had the entrepreneurial mindset. They were smart and ambitious. So they had so many characteristics that is important for the founder. So I think that's also for the next message to stay out loud. It's also there's some professionalism, not necessarily a gender.
Thank you very much. Maybe you mentioned Tatiana. Tatiana, I'd like to ask you, because you are senior investment director in Genesis Capital Equity, and Genesis Capital Equity, if I'm right, is fund which picking up the stocks. So I'd like to ask you about your role in picking up the stocks, in the, let's say, man environment, what your voice in this man environment, and how your opinion impact this stock picking role.
Okay, maybe let me correct a little bit what we do. Genesis Capital invests in is a private equity fund, institutional private equity fund, which invests into typically each fund portfolio 10 to 12 companies, maybe even more. We invest for on average 5 years across different sectors, typically in 4 investment situations, which would be successions, it could be buy-build stories, corporate spin-offs, or secondary buyouts. We always team up with the management teams, and we always, when start the investments, have an investment thesis or the idea what we want to do with the company, but we want to get it to be able to exit it to someone that they knew older. It was on average 5 years. We across the portfolio at the moment we have 2 active funds and 16 companies in portfolio across close to funds. Out of those 16, we have 3 which are led by a female CEO, and approximately 26% of the management teams are 26% of all the managers, top managers, are women. That's pretty much what we do. In Genesis, or but if I take the perspective of the companies, we do not really invest only based on whether there is a female or there is a balanced management team. We are quite, let's say, simple. We look at EBITDA, or the company does, how good it is, whether the market where it is active is good. But what I can say from the experience, typically where ladies are involved in the management, it is what already said. Those management team tends to be more balanced, more collaborative. The empathy of women helps to find a better balance in the management teams. They were open to innovation.
and sorry to come bad, but maybe less ego than in the purely male species. And when I look at the perspective of the fans of Genesis, I think we are quite humble. It's private equity is a craft as any other. So you have to learn it. You have to spend years on learning it, and it is evaluated. Well, there are 70 investment professionals. Out of those, 2 are living, so not really well balanced, but still. It is a combination of sort of what is that experience, professional, but also life experience. So we tend to have different ideas or different views, but ultimately we have to agree. So and we have I am one of the deal leaders. Typically, each investment has its deal team, so to say, which decreases 3 people, different levels, and those people work in different combinations. So pretty much everyone works with better one. And it also helps because there's different experience from different companies working with different people, and it all is kind of energy and works so well.
Thank you so much. And maybe from practice, I still stay with you, Tatiana. Is there any like example, for example, when your voice, your woman voice, changed the investment decision? Because if I heard right, you are 2 women in between 17 professionals, so there's not so many women. If I'm also right, in NERV are only 2 women. Is that no? In NERV are also 2 delegates.
In advisory Tilia, we are 2. Yet we are strong. You know?
So then that's I like like to ask you like how do you have like any example when your women voice changed like the, let's say, an investment perspective?
Not sure if it was me as a woman or rather sort of argumenting why I thought the investment was a good idea. And yes, if you are convinced that something is good and worth going for, that you need to find the argument. So, and if you're especially whether you are a male or female. So, but yeah, maybe I do have a slightly different perspective from my male belief. But again, it's shaped by an experience and life.
Thank you very much. And now I went to Helena because I already mentioned there are only 2 women in there. Do you feel like your voice is heard enough in NERV because you are one of the top economists in Czech?
Yeah, unfortunately, time to time not enough. Like regarding the Bankovnictví, it was not enough. We were more or less only more or less 2 of us. It was gender balanced, 1 woman, 1 man against, definitely. Yeah, but you know, this is definitely the impact of like I would say 2 ladies in a NERV is significant. 1 lady is from Zuzana Petrovová, so she's a business lady, so this is where that I'm like theoretic. She's the business leader, and what we try to do like really open the topics that are not really like short term, that we are really try to rise the long term and maybe more strategic topics than the others. So I really see some difference, but I would not overvaluate that because like last 2 years it was very hectic. I would say we try to help the government to prepare the fiscal consolidation. So lots of work done. It was pro-growth effect, many tasks. Like the policy regarding the housing. Now also we still try to improve our system of in-house system to support the preventions. So there are lots of topics that we would like to stress. And despite the fact if the next government will really build up an NERV, because I'm really skeptical about that, we will, as an expert, will do our job like independently if the NERV will be or there will be no NERV in the future. So we will do our job, I believe me, and ICON is here.
Thank you very much. And maybe I'd like to ask another ladies, how do they see, like, let's say, making a career in men perspective, and how do they feel their voice in male perspective? And maybe we can start through Tereza, but I'm not sure if Tereza, it's your situation because you are founder of Holkyvkryptu, and I will have a question on you in a while, but I just stick to this topic. So maybe if you have this experience from it.
Oh, I would say clearly. I've been through many startups where I was the only female in the whole team, and surprisingly I never had an issue with that. Oh, I would say quite the opposite. Like, when you know how to play around, I guess they listen if you have what to say, obviously. So
I was not because of generation, because your company was like, yeah.
that may be true. One of the startups I've been on, well, different thing. It really depends. But I grew up in like male environment. I was attending university where I was the only female, in a whole class. So I guess I'm not the right person to speak about this because I'm too used to it.
Kamilla?
I'm afraid I cannot share like many stories like that. As I said, I am in the Berkeley Bankovnictví space where there were many females, so I'm afraid I'm not the right person here, but sorry.
So we have
I was lucky one. That's why I'm probably still here after 20 years in private equity, because my first experience was in Penta Investments in Slovakia. And when I joined, there were around 25 male investment professionals, so even worse ratio than Tanya had in Genesis. And the problem, not the problem, but the tricky thing was I was the first woman in investment role ever. Before it was only legal support and as administrative support. So I think it was a bigger shock for them than for me because I was studying finance and math, and there were always more men than women, so I was prepared for it. One of the interview questions was, you're gonna be the only woman on that team, and the first woman that ever has been on that team. Do you have an issue with that? I said, great, fine for me, no issue. So that was a big training, and I have to say they were nice, respectful. Like, if you are willing to learn and you are collaborative, which women tend to be, I had excellent experience there. And I think what was maybe even more influential later, that's where a lot of women drop out of this professional investment career, is when they have children. And I do have 2 children, 10 and 12. And I think this going through a transition with a support is important. Otherwise, women just don't continue in the career. And I was lucky because I worked in Banks & Oak in Prague. Gabriel Eichler was basically my boss. And he first allowed me to do my MBA program, and it was executive MBA program at the University of Chicago. So I had a chance to go and travel every few weeks for a week to London, and not every boss tolerates this kind of self-development career. So that was one thing, to have a boss and an environment that gives you the chance to grow. And second, as I mentioned, the children, I worked for PineBridge Investments later, and I had 2 children while I worked there in investment and kind of, manager director role. And having ability to come back on a part-time arrangement and ability to work part-time from home, which was pre-COVID, which was not very common, was absolutely amazing. And I think if we want to keep women building their careers, the work environment has to be adjusted, and everybody benefits from that. It's not just for women. Guys also want to be at home with their children when they're small and have flexibility, etc. So I think finding this kind of supporting an environment is critical for anybody to thrive.
Thank you so much. And now I just want to give now to Tereza now, because she didn't speak so much. And it's a bit maybe for some people, and not just women, or many male, because when I'm doing some interviews in Viking magazine, I often ask about crypto, and many male tells me it's extremely super conservative, it's scam and whatever. So my question is on you, Tereza. How are women in crypto world, and what is the situation overall of women in crypto right now? because you're a founder in Holkyvkryptu.
What would you guess?
I'm interested. That's why I was asking.
Because the general opinion is that it's more risky, so we are afraid of it, right? So you may expect that it's hard to get women in crypto or convince them to invest in it. And we couldn't be further from the truth. Well, it depends. For our generation, I would say we have more rigid brains. We just tend to follow certain paths. We learn how to invest in stock, and then we may consider crypto later because we want to make sure we understand the technology first. We want to have the self-esteem, so then we may go for it. But this was the case like 5 years ago when I was on some podcast, and the statistics when like crypto owners were 71% male, 79% men, 21% of women. Now it moved, and now it's probably worldwide like 33% women and the rest male. But what's changing drastically is the generational gaps, because, and now one surprising fact, for Gen Z, crypto is the first asset they buy as an investment. So if you guys have any startup, any company whatsoever that can do anything about crypto, or Gen Z is your future or current customer, you're missing out if you're not in this space right now and in the next 2-5 years. It's the same for AI. So there are countries like Vietnam or Indonesia where females are almost 50-50 crypto owners at this point. So there are markets when it's basically balanced already. Not for us because, well, we still look at crypto as financial asset. But those countries realizing the underlying technology and what it can bring, especially in those spaces where women didn't have access to certain financial tools, they value it way more. And the funny fact also, I don't know if you know the meme that runs around, that our parents at this age, 35, 40, used to buy houses, right? We may be lucky if we buy some stocks or maybe a fraction of the house. But the Gen Z, for them, the only asset affordable is the parcel in DR where they may build like a tiny cabin. And that is NFT, and that is crypto. So it's also the affordability, and we have to take this in account.
You mentioned this Gen Z, and also about 35% of women investment next men. But how is it? Do you have a numbers just for Gen Z? Just only for Gen Z?
This one, Gen Z at this point, I think it will be like 60-40. I think. I'm guessing a little bit. I think 60%, almost 70% of Gen Z now own crypto, and the men versus women goes by 60-40. Whereas for our generation, it may be like 70-30. But it's drastically changing because, like we said prior, they follow social media, they follow the influencer in the trust, so everybody is invested in AI, crypto, and the understanding how it's going to shape their jobs environment. So they're preparing for the long-term run, which is one of the values important for that. And one thing I would want to emphasize that crypto and Web3 plays a crucial role for me. We mentioned it here that women are nurturers, right? Like male are the providers, some women need like us too. But it's in our DNA that we have these different values. We don't want to invest. We want to be invested. Right? So crypto and Web3 lies on these core values where everything is focused on the user and empowering the user. It's not the company. It's not just the stock I buy and betting on growth of the company. In crypto, if done right, you feel more empowered and like part of the community. And that's what draws women, and especially the younger ones, into the empowerment. And that's where you can leverage for your business. Even if you have nothing to do with crypto, you can use the same narrative for your marketing.
Thank you very much, Maybe I'd like to ask very fast, all ladies, do you invest into crypto? You can start from Tatiana. Yes, you. So your EPS only the crypto invest.
And I already made that.
EPS also.
Exactly. Like this, to invest into crypto is like the learning curve for me. You know, if I would like to know what is going on in the economy, I can't be out. You know, of course, I don't have like 1/3 of my portfolio into crypto, but at least some part of it is, and it makes me like it makes on me the pressure to follow and to just like what is going on, learn, because this is something that I will like because I have the long-term view. So I would like to know what is going on, and exactly, my son, he's 18, so he's already another generation, but he start to invest and exactly in what? In crypto. And I'm fine with that. Of course, we discuss about, you know, that the portfolio should be diversified. Of course, we did. But the first investment was crypto. And this is true.
Thank you very much, Helena. Maybe we have here free human therapy from investment environment. And when we're talking about investment, there is a big topic, ESG, environmental social governance. And the governance part is also women and leadership. And I'd like to ask, because we are doing so to add, but very critically, like, how can the women in leadership affect the investment decision overall in the future, mostly according to the ESG criteria? Maybe we can start from you, Tatiana.
Not sure I can add anything to what already was said. I think that women can build on their qualities, which is the empathy, the collaborative culture, maybe using intuition in more scenarios than male of colleagues, and overall the approach to novelties, to innovation. I think that's how the Tilia leaders can help.
No, but I asked maybe from the investor's perspective, if the woman in leadership can affect the governance score, let's say in ESG score overall, like in the future. That's the question.
All right. So answer maybe I think that ladies tend to be more balanced. So also the diversity is important, and it's also because ESG is not only gender, right? It's also environmental and social. So from my perspective or my experience, ladies also tend to be more thoughtful about the consequences of their actions or of their business for the surroundings, including the environment. So I think that it's in this direction that the ladies can help better understanding of the ESG and using it more in the future.
Thank you so much, Kamilla. How do you see, from the investor's perception?
Yeah, so I believe, and I think it was mentioned already today, that some takers found there is a relation between better diversity, like more women in companies, and a higher return for renewable. So I think that it's not just a regulation push today, but it's something which is first doing, having more women in companies from a business perspective as well. So how I see it, that there are many factors shaping the things, it's a kind of complex thing again. Yeah, but definitely women can have.
If I may share some fun story with you, and this is related to SG. SG, or personal me, was the reason why we issued, even before the COVID, one of the first, it was really the first SG bond in the Czech Republic at Raiffeisenbank
with very low cost. So, and the reason was me, because I was that time close to board and I was the member of supervisory board. And this was the key argument for issuing the SG bond even before the COVID. And our bank received the diploma for that. So, yes, we are very influential.
Emilia, very last point.
Yeah, I'll take it from the perspective of fundraising also. Obviously, it's part of our DNA to, to be inclusive and kind of diversity is the main topic. But I think is regulation that exists here in Europe and overregulation, some might say, it's gonna stay to some extent. It's not gonna disappear. We all know what happened in the last few months, and ESG became a bad word from one day to another, and everybody's renaming their presentation slides from ESG to sustainable or responsible investing because it's really becoming a bad word to use almost. But I think it's gonna stay here in Europe for sure in some form or shape. And for example, one of our main investors is European Investment Fund. They're following CSRD regulation from European Union. They are interested, they are asking questionnaires. It's part of their evaluation whether there is a governance that includes diverse leadership. It's the same with EBRD Bank as a potential investor for a lot of funds in this region. So I think it is gonna be around, and that's why we still have to pay attention to it. The question is to make it really practical and impactful in your portfolio. That's the key kind of topic.
Thank you very much. I think it was a great point on our discussion. Thank you so much for your attention, and thank mostly our panelists. It was Tatiana Balkovicová, Helena Horská, Tereza Starostová, Kamilla Racz a Emilia Mamajova. Thank you again, ladies.